This is the West Michigan Sports Show, presented by the United States Air Force. Now, here's your host, Brandon Wirth.
Hello and welcome back to the West Michigan Sports Show here on News Radio WBRN. Welcome back, everybody. It's 2024, and we have the show beginning this new year off on the right foot. Did everybody take the new year and we're balancing on your right foot? You got to start on the right foot, literally, to get your good luck going before the beginning of the new year. So hopefully you guys did that. I know I did, and it certainly has worked so far. We've had some great things that have already been in the works for this show moving forward into 2024. Super excited. We'll break some of that stuff down, let you know what's coming, what could be potentially on the way, as well as we'll get into the full winter sports winter break recap, where we'll get into all the scores, all the matches, all the games that we have, and we'll break them down for you. We'll get you the standings updates here at the very end of the program, and we'll start this one out on a high note. But before we do that, we want to make sure we thank the sponsors for this show. They've been with us since day one, and they've been supporting us the whole way through, and we can't thank them enough for their help. Those include, obviously, the United States Air Force as the primary sponsor of this podcast. Some of our other local sports supporters include the Mecosta-Osceola Career Center, the Mecosta-Osceola Transit Authority, Paris Auto Sales and Service of Big Rapids, Alter Care Big Rapids, Quality Car and Truck Repair, the Schuberg Insurance Agency, and Johnson's Automotive. Big thank you to all of you for making this show possible. And if you want to be a supporter of this show, make sure you call Big Rapids Radio Network and Big Rapids Media, and we'll get you hooked up so that you can support this show, and we can support you by giving back in an exchange of things. So very exciting stuff coming into 2024 for this show. And obviously there will be a lot of not necessarily big changes. If you're thinking name change or anything like that, not going to necessarily be that big. We're not doing a whole rebrand of the show at this point. Obviously things could change, but the biggest things that will be coming up in 2024 for this show, the number one thing will be more interviews. Obviously, that's been a thing that's kind of been a little bit hit or miss over the last fall school year. That's really just because we've had a lot of things that have been starting to be put in and implemented within our sports network and coverage here at the Big Rapids Radio Network. So with a lot of that, we wanted to make sure that we got a lot of that stuff for you, especially with football and basketball. But there will be more interviews coming up in 2024. You can bank it as much as you want. You can put your mortgage on it. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you feel that confident in me, hooray to you, and big clap and a pat on the back to you for belief in me. But it's going to be great. We'll obviously have as much sports coverage as we can. We'll be continuing to recap scores, continuing to recap standings, talking with coaches. We're going to be expanding to player interviews. This is something I'm very excited about. We've talked a lot with the coaches, even support staff. We've talked with broadcasters as well as athletic directors, but we'll be expanding as well to players because we want to hear the players' perspective, right? What is it like playing in West Michigan at the high school level, especially with all of the great athletes, teams, leagues, sports as a whole that we have available for entertainment in this area. Super cool. So why not ask those athletes that are performing on a weekly basis? So we'll get some of those to you, as well as we'll get more interviews overall in 2024. And as well, we obviously will continue our waves on the air. So big hooray for that. If you're a fan of listening to the show live, you're going to have another year of it, 3:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 3:33 if you want to be very technical. If it's 3:30 and you're not listening and you don't hear it yet, don't stop listening. It's coming. I promise. It's just getting through the queue. Obviously, got bills to pay, commercials to play, but it will be there. I promise. So just be a little patient and it'll be there. But we're continuing on the air. We'll be continuing our coverage on WBRN.com. And the biggest thing as well, we'll be covering digital footprint as well with this show. Clip and show highlights will be starting to get posted on our platforms on Big Rapids Daily News and WBRN.com, so you can listen to clips of the show. Obviously, we'll have more digital coverage, so you know when podcasts are out. You don't necessarily have to go to WBRN.com. You can find it on social media. You can find it on more. So there will be a little bit better of a digital footprint for the show in 2024. So that will be something that will be very exciting. I'm really excited that we'll be able to do that, especially with the expansive coverage that we're going to be able to put with sports this year. And especially one of the biggest things I'm very excited for this show in 2024 is obviously we cover a lot of the CSAA, but we want to also branch out a little bit. This was something I did originally when we originally had the West Michigan Sports Show as strictly a podcast. It wasn't necessarily over the airwaves. And we did a little bit of a different kind of show where we mostly recapped a specific sport at the time for that week, and every other week it obviously alternate. But now kind of getting into more of the full recap mode, we'll be expanding our coverage a little bit. So maybe including a little bit of the Highland Conference as well for some of the folks that might listen in from some of those other eastern parts or northern parts. We'll be also covering a little bit, not necessarily too much farther west and east, north and south, but we'll be dipping in a little bit to more of the local coverage as well outside of the CSAA that are within our radio boundaries. So if you have a school that is within our radio reach and you have a good sports team, or you have a really cool story to tell, or a good athlete or coach to highlight, you're going to get that coverage even though you're not a CSAA team. So we'll be expanding that a little bit. We'll be bringing more of an outreach for some of those other conferences, some of those other teams here in 2024. So those are the three big things. I'm really excited for that. I think it's going to make the show a lot better. And I think it's going to just bring a lot more entertainment for you guys, the fans, as well, that make this show possible. And we can't thank you enough. And we're excited to bring you these new changes here in 2024. One thing we'll also be experimenting with, kind of might be brought in a little bit, is obviously we've had the traditional talk show formats that have kind of been introduced. Obviously, we kind of have a primary format that's set with an interview and score recap weekly basis, as well as a sprinkle in of top five. We'll be keeping some of those in rotation, which will be very exciting. I'm very excited that will open up kind of a new prowess of what this program can entail when it comes to overall content coverage, because I think a lot of it is important. But being able to hear some of the other perspectives from other people will also be something that we'll be trying to focus on here in 2024. So you don't have to hear all of my opinions, even though they might be right. No, I'm just kidding. It's my opinion. Obviously, it can be different for every person that's listening. So we'll get you more of those perspectives as well, where we might talk with some other people about these subjects and what they think about these subjects that we talk about in the traditional formats, whether it's the officiating crisis, whether it's NIL coming into the college realm. We'll be covering some of that stuff as well, as we'll get to some of those top five talks, maybe talking to a trainer about their key nutritional tools or things that will help prevent injury for high school athletes, or talking to athletic directors on what it's like putting the schedule together and what goes in and out when they're making a lot of these schedules for potentially 2-3 years down the road. So we'll get into more of that stuff in depth and be able to really kind of spread our wings coming up in 2024. We'll have a really, really fun year, and we're looking forward to it. And obviously with the West Michigan Sports Show, obviously the primary coverage of all sports, but if you love basketball as well, be sure to stay tuned, BigRapidsDailyNews.com, and as well Big Country as well on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and those sort of things as well. We'll have expansion, a little bit of the rundown. Obviously, that's been a new project that we put in just this fall for football. Such good ratings, such good improvement. A lot of people were saying, we want this for basketball. So we're running it back with basketball. TBD on spring. We're still looking at if we want to do a baseball and a softball type of complementary style of show. We're still looking into some of those things, but that's kind of been an idea maybe potentially down the road. But we'll be getting into that, especially based on where basketball goes. But that will be kicking back up here really kind of starting next week. So be on the lookout for that. Full coverage, CSAA basketball, especially on the boys' side. As we get closer to the playoffs, as well as looking at a lot of the postseason implications for not only conference play, but also for district alignments, some of those things going through the season as a whole. Complete coverage of basketball. So if you're a big CSA basketball fan, tune into the rundown on social media here with the network, and we'll be sure to have that online at Big Country, WBRN, Big Rapids Daily News, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those platforms, so you can be able to view the show live. You can watch it online. You can even watch it on your Apple TV or your Roku TV if you have the YouTube app. So it's really cool. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the show because we have a lot of fun stuff planned for that program here coming up in 2024. Also, for those that obviously heard the Behind the Bulldogs show as well, that will be keep going. So if you're a big Ferris sports fan, specifically for the collegiate level, if you're a big fan of the Bulldogs, as well as all of the 16 and 17 teams that are represented with the school, we'll have full coverage for that every Saturday as well, 3 o'clock before the show airs in case you missed it, as well as online, WBRN.com, and all podcast platforms that you also get this show. But that's what we got in 2024. Now we'll get to the actual show. But first, we'll pay some bills. We'll be right back here on News Radio WBRN. All right, we're back here on the West Michigan Sports Show. Time to get into the box score and recap here for the program. We'll get you up to speed on all the scores from over the holiday break. Be sure to stay tuned next week as well. We'll get interviews back rolling in. Obviously, we mentioned before the break, we're going to get a lot more interviews, a lot of variety from the interviews on who are interviewing, what it's interviewing about, and not just the task at hand, whether it's coaching their sport or any other sort of relation to what they do. Get to know more about them. Get to know more about what they do, the team, the personality, that sort of thing. So it's going to be really fun. Obviously, don't have one for this week, as you could tell by what we were talking about early on. I wanted to make sure to give you guys some time to be able to kind of grasp what's going on in 2024, just so you guys are aware as well as what we're kind of trying to do here at the station. But as well, obviously, a lot of the coaches taking time off over the holiday break, want to give them some time to get back into the swing of things, and we'll get back to regularly scheduled programming literally after this show, but not only that, for next week on this program in particular. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Subscribe on all podcast platforms as well as stay tuned on WBRN all week long, so you can be able to follow that as well as get the news around sports as well, following along with the feed at WBRN.com. We'll start on December 22nd, go all the way back to where really the holiday break began for many of the schools. There was boys basketball action on Friday that we weren't able to cover on the Thursday edition of recording that was aired on Saturday. Montebello takes down Lakeview 41-27, the final there, and Ravenna takes down Grant on the road 61-55. The Tigers fall in boys basketball action. On the other side for girls, the Grant Tigers fall to Cedar Springs, and the Red Hawks at Cedar Springs 50-42. And in an early game, Lakeview takes down Montebello 38-24. Your final there. Also had some wrestling action. No scores reported from the Martin Clipper Classic. We had a couple teams in the local area, you can say. Kent City, the most prominent in CSAA, as well as Grand Rapids Catholic Central for any of those that might be in the northern region of Grand Rapids that might be listening in. No scores reported, but overall sounded like a pretty good tournament from what I had in the recap based on that. Over to the 23rd, over the weekend, there was a couple teams in action at the West Michigan Hoop Summit that was held at Aquinas College. Newaygo was competing as well on the boys' side. They took on Wyoming Lee. They fall 74-55 to Wyoming Lee, as well as the girls' team was in action against Grand Rapids Union. They win 39-25 there in the home for the Saints. Moving ahead into December 27th, the following week after Christmas, a couple of holiday tournaments in CSAA action. The first one was at Central Montcalm. The Hornets fall to a really good Greenville team, and I mean a really, really good-looking Greenville team. 83-32. Central Montcalm falls to Greenville. On the other side, a much closer game. The Hornets still fall at home to Greenville 49-43. Your final there. On the following day for that same tournament, Belding goes toe-to-toe with Central Montcalm and wins. They run away with it by 19, 58-39, as well as the women's team falling to the Black Knights 45-31, a loss there for the Hornets. Over in the first annual Holton Holiday Classic, over there, the home of the Red Devils, just west down the road, Muskegon Catholic Central and White Cloud squared off in boys action, and White Cloud really has bounced back well since that Big Rapids loss. They have continued to roll. They win this one 71-32, your final. as well as on the girls' side, the Indians take down Muskegon Catholic Central in a defensive slugfest, 31-24. Your final there. There was also bowling action. Don't have scores to report there, as well as some other teams that were in action there in bowling. Some of those including Kent City, as well as fellow conference foe or former conference foe, Fremont as well, Ludington, Allendale, Sparta, some of those local teams all in action, Holton as well. There in bowling, but you can also find that stuff out as well as wrestling, and as well for hockey, specifically for Big Rapids. You can find some of that stuff as well for score-wise on WBRN.com there on the side panel pages for your sports coverage there with basketball. So you can check that stuff out anytime, anywhere, any place, as long, obviously, as you have cellular data or internet. December 29th, continuing the holiday tournament at Holton. White Cloud beats Holton in the championship contest, 77-59. So the Indians claim the championship, as well as on the girls' side, Holton takes down White Cloud 50-12 in the championship contest as the Red Devils hold true at home and win their first annual inaugural Holiday Classic. Over on the boys' side, in Reed City, the second annual Reed City Holiday Tournament, in the same shoes as Holton was a year ago. Reed City takes down Bel Air 77-51. Actually got to catch the tail end of that game after my trip down to Grand Rapids for the Great Lakes Invitational of Ferris State Hockey. It was super fun to be able to see Reed City really playing at a dominant level. They've done it all year. And as a former alum myself, really cool to see that overall just for the area. As much as I would love to keep seeing the Coyotes win, obviously we'd love to see the conference and West Michigan continue to excel because it's a very underrated place. And that's why we love really bringing a lot of this coverage to you, especially here for all of our teams that are playing in this area. On the girls' side for Reed City Holiday Tournament, Moily Stanwood continues their red-hot start to the season. They win 54-49 against Alpena, while the Reed City girls fall in an absolute nail-biter to Fremont, 53-49, your final there. Rallying over into the final day, December 30th, the championship contest for this holiday tournament. St. John's takes down Reed City on the road 61-52 to claim the title. And as well in girls action, it was Fremont falling to Moily Stanwood as the Mohawks claim the title. In the third place game, Reed City takes down Alpena 43-37, your final there from boys and girls hoops there at the Reed City Holiday Classic. There on January 3rd to start the new year, there was some basketball that took place on Wednesday, and some teams starting to get on their right foot for the new year beginning. Alma takes down Chip Hills 70-44, your final there. Big Rapids wins an absolute nail-biter, 52-51 in overtime. This was a game Big Rapids came back. That was calling that game. They were down double digits in the third quarter. They come back. Gabe Jinga, a floater from the free throw line, to send it to overtime, and they eventually win it in overtime in a nail-biter. Really big win for Coach Ingles and Coach Thomas and that crew to start off the new year against a really, really good St. Francis team here in 2024. Tri-County falls to Fremont at home, 68-42, the final score there. And as well, Ravenna takes down Moily Stanwood 77-30 there in Ravenna. And Reed City dominates Traverse City Christian. It was a close one at halftime, but the Coyotes win 79-58. They blow it away in the second half to a 21-point victory. On the girls' side, Fremont takes down Tri-County 62-22 there from Howard City. Lake City holds off Moily Stanwood in girls action to give the Mohawks their first loss. How about a battle of the Titans there between the Trojans and the Mohawks? Lake City gets the last laugh, and as well, Chip Hills falls to Alma 53-12. Your final score there from Remus. And as well from Thursday, Pentwater and White Cloud squared off. Indians take down Pentwater 71-33. And on the girls' side, Kent City takes down Montague 47-21. They're in regional, not quite district action. They're in non-conference play. January 5th, that's where we stand here today as we're recording this. There will be some basketball to be played. Central Malcolm will be traveling to Grand Rapids West Michigan Aviation Academy, just a stone's throw from Gerald R. Ford Airport, as well as Kent City will be on the road at Muskegon Western Michigan Christian. Reed Reed City will be hosting Midland Dow in boys action, all three of those games boys games. And then on the girls side, Tri-County hosts Morley Stanwood, and Manistee Catholic Central hosts White Cloud there in girls action. All of those games are at 7 o'clock. Or I should say the Central Montcalm boys game is at 5:30, as well as also at 5:30 the White Cloud Manistee Catholic Central game. Tri-County as well as the Kent City games for girls and boys respectively, 7 o'clock. Reed City Midland Dow is 7:30 game for this Friday night for those interested. Obviously, it'll be all gone by the time you're listening to this live over the airwaves, but just so you know what time they were in case you might have missed it or was a little confused based on the schedules. Bowling action also as well. Kent City hosting Montague in what appears to be a duel coming up between those two teams. But some other games to look out for next week. A lot of big games. We'll kind of tie that in with the CSAA standings. We'll be really looking forward to seeing a couple teams in action next week, especially one that I'll keep my eye on for sure. Standish, Sterling, and Reed City will be squaring off there in Standish. Those are going to be a really good non-conference matchup. Traverse City West as well as Big Rapids will be facing off. Obviously, these games not necessarily having as importance of a conference game, but the overall record might be the indicator at the end of the year because of the fact how tight this race might end up being. Reed City obviously at the top right now, Big Rapids right behind, as well as White Cloud is sniffing that second, third spot with Norwego and Grant at this moment of time. And so it's going to be they're going to be clawing their way to try to get into that top four once we get to the CSAA tournament week. So it'll be very interesting to follow along with that. Also on the girls side, some interesting games that will be coming up on January 9th as well. We got Grant hosting Wyoming Lee. That one should be very interesting, as well as Big Rapids will be traveling to Grand Rapids Covenant Christian for a game for Coach Heist and company. Also as well, January 12th, which will be next Friday. Some really fun games on deck for CSAA action. Grant will be hosting White Cloud. Expect a lot of points in that game if you're heading over to Grant on Friday night. As well on the girls side, Morley Stanwood will be facing off against Newaygo. That one could be very interesting to start off the new year. As well as we'll have some wrestling action as well. Lakeview hosting a girls wrestling tournament, so that'll be very cool to see as well, as some other teams will be in action as well, including Kent City, Lakeview, and some other teams around the area. Will be heading over to Ravenna for the Lloyd Cogswell Wrestling Tournament. That starts at 9 a.m. over on Saturday. But that's a recap of all the holiday action. Big thanks to all of you for tuning in. We're going to get to all the nitty-gritty interviews, all the score recap analysis in full in-depth, full swing here back from the holidays coming up next week. So be sure you subscribe and don't miss out on any of this content moving forward. It's going to be fun, going to be fast, going to be furious. Even if you're a fan of the franchise or not, it's going to be a wild ride. So buckle your seatbelts and lock in because it's going to be a really fun year and can't wait to bring it to you guys all year long. But until next time, Brandon Wirth signing off on the West Michigan Sports Show here on News Radio WBRN.